Sup, dude? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me have some more RPG horror stories. Weird question that has nothing to do with RPG horror stories. What is your flavor of ice cream? My flavor? Not ice cream. Trick question. Haha. I'm more of a milkshake kind of tiefling. Mostly cookies and cream. I like that specifically. I think it's nice flavor. Anyway, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Other players knocked me out and cut off my limbs. DM rewards them for it. We're playing a pretty ruthless campaign, we all know that. However, what I was not prepared for was yesterday's session. My character, who had been the jolly bard with no enemies, playing music and making food for the party, lost the MacGuffin a few sessions ago. I was attacked by the BBUG's vampire daughter, and she almost killed me and stole the MacGuffin I was carrying inside my ribcage. At the time, this was a very important step in my bard's character development, and worked off of it very well with him losing all self-worth, having PTSD-induced panic attacks, and even self-harming at one point. This is where the horror story begins. My bard Yastrix had fallen asleep in a forest and wakes up to the two artificers, Tagror and Angel, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, standing above him with the daughter that had assaulted me. Naturally acted out a panic attack due to this being the day after I was attacked to begin with. What happened next shocked me to my very core. I expected a very stern talking to, but instead my own party members attacked me, knocked me out, tortured me, and lastly sliced off my left arm and the thumb on my right hand to left me in the forest. All while the DM was laughing his ass off and complimenting them on being despicable and dark. I feel like we're missing a lot of context here. Maybe this last paragraph would tell us more. After this, I was left in the forest, and the two artificers went back to the daughter's house. She went, "I'm sorry about your bard friend. Let me make it up to him. How about I enhance your weapons?" And then buffed their weapons while I was left half dead and unconscious in the forest with nothing but a half useless character. Should I bring a bomb to the next session? No, I don't think you should bring a bomb. I think you find yourself in a really crappy group that probably just plodding along and trying to basically screw you over. I don't know 100% the context for it, but it sounds like you were set up and the DM and everybody else is in on it except you. I would say best thing to do, cut your losses, leave this group, and just don't communicate with anybody here. Or if you really wanted to, you could ask the DM what was the point for any of this. I don't think you're gonna get satisfactory answers, and I don't think you're gonna be happy with the answers you get, because they're probably gonna be like, well, it's just part of the character, it's just a joke, or chill, it's just a story and stuff, it's just what happens, you know, consequences of the actions or something. I don't know, whatever reason they're gonna make up, but I don't think it's gonna make you happy. I feel like, in fact, you're going to just waste your time trying to communicate and find out a proper solution and a reason, trying to problem solve with somebody that clearly is in on it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm missing a lot of the context. I don't know 100% what's going on. There could be extra things happening on the side. Maybe this was already like plotted out ahead of time. Maybe this was inevitable in some way. I don't know. No D&D is better than bad D&D. And your time is better spent off doing anything else in the world, including looking for other groups instead of playing in a bad D&D game. So yeah, don't play with these guys. I would recommend it. Let's get to the next story for today. That time my DM railroaded me into a class and took away my choices. So this is my first time playing D&D. Happened during the peak of the pandemic in 2020 and I was bored. So I decided to join a D&D Discord server to find a group to play with. I made it clear that I was new to the game and did not know a lot of the ins and outs of the game. That is when I found a group with two other players and a DM. I don't remember names, but I remember that the other two players had chosen Monk and Paladin. However, Monk was not the problem here. Paladin and the DM were. The Monk was pretty chill and quiet, rarely asserting his opinion. So when I asked for help with the character sheet, DM and Paladin asked me what I wanted to play. Chill so far. I told them I wanted to play a magic class with access to a lot of spells, including team help and damaging spells. At the time, only really knew Wizard as a class, and I thought that it was the only spellcasting class available. DM and Paladin then told me the pros and cons of each spellcasting class, but before I could decide for myself, the DM told me to put Sorcerer down on my character sheet. I did just that because I was naive and I thought this was how it was done. I was only around 18 at the time, whereas the DM and the other two players were in the mid-20s. Showing new players the ropes is a great thing to do, especially because you get to introduce more of your friends or maybe strangers to your hobby. And for me personally, introducing a lot of my friends to this new obsession that is D&D is so fun. I love it. But at the end of the day, you gotta make sure you show them the ropes properly. Show them all the classes, show them all the subclasses, help them make a decision of what kind of class they want to play and what kind of things they want to do. Because there's a lot of different options in D&D. I mean, if you straight up just look at full spellcasters with that, I mean, I guess Warlock can kind of be included towards that. But you have Druid, you have Cleric, you have Wizard, you have Sorcerer, you have Warlock. I think that's everything. You have a lot of different options, especially half-casters as well. Oh, they're just so much. But it feels really strange that the DM basically says, like, hey, you have all these options, but put down Sorcerer without, you know, telling them what the sorcerer is or let him choose. People don't just tell you what to put down. You get to make a character. You make a character, you decide what you want to make. So after putting down sorcerer, I asked what does that come with? GM just told me what to put down for skills, ability modifiers, and everything else without explaining to me what it all means. I think I was also told to put down the hermit as a background without the DM telling me why or what that meant. Of course, I also didn't know what the item given to me could do, like the herbalism kit. Wow, it sounds like they're completely fast-tracking the player without explaining them anything. That's not a great way to do it. Listen, if you're a new player and you're watching this video, the best thing for the DM to do in this situation is to tell you about your options. Explain what each class does, explain what the different caveats they have, explain the great big abilities, the proficiencies that come with, and then how the spellcasting works. There's a lot of nuance to spellcasting. There's prepared spellcasters, there's learned spellcasters. Oh yeah, I forgot the one class, Bard. That's another spellcasting class. I completely forgot about that. I don't know why I did that. I have no idea. Anyway, there's a lot of nuance when it comes to putting together a character. And DMs that kind of do this brazenly, like this guy is just like telling them, okay, you just put down this and that and this and that and just basically not explaining anything. That's not a great way to explain. That's going to confuse the shit out of the player. And then the player just going to be confused, not sure what's going on. That's not a great way to teach somebody about D&D and how to make a character. So when it came to investigate what spells I could use, this is when Paladin interjects. Paladin tells me instantly to make one of my spells enlarge or reduce. His reasoning, Monk had an ability to increase their size, and it would be better to help him get even bigger because it would be funny. What followed was the DM and Paladin telling me what spells to put on my spell sheet without explaining why and getting irritated when I didn't follow along. So my whole spell sheet ended up being spells that could support the other two players rather than being a damage-focused spellcaster like I wanted. I am not a fan of Paladin DM at this point. What a terrible thing to do. Just not given any sort of choice and given the ability to play decide and explain to them what kind of options they have. This is how not to help somebody make the very first character or teach him D&D. This sucks. When it came to my first session, I was excited to roleplay for the first time in a game like this. Although RP was not new to me, our first session was about 2.5 hours long and most of it was spent focusing on Paladin's character and Monk. I was introduced as a sorcerer for hire and the Paladin hired me to help him with a problem. Towards the end of the session, the Paladin brought me to a shack where a magical book was. Apparently only people with arcane knowledge could read it. When I asked to investigate the book without actually reading it, the DM said it seemed like a normal book without having me roll. When I said I want to leave the shack since the book felt weird to my character, the DM told me the door was locked now. So I was forced to read the book and my sorcerer ended up taking half of his health in psychic damage. Turns out I couldn't read it after all. That was not the only time in the session that I had my choices taken away from me, forcing me down a singular path. After this session, I still wanted to play since I did not see it as a bad experience back then. I just thought that was how D&D was played. Oh, sweet summer child, no. So I asked the group chat what would session 2 be. I waited 3 weeks before asking again, and no one ever responded. So after waiting a month, I just left the group chat. Ironically, the sorcerer I made is still one of my favorite characters. I changed up his spells and his background after learning more. He is now one of my prominent NPCs in a campaign I am DMing. Wow, what a turnaround. Good lord, that was your first player experience? Like learning for the very first time? That sucks. For real, those guys suck, dude. I'm sorry that was your experience. Literally, I feel like as an experienced player, you have the opportunity to introduce somebody, a stranger or friend, maybe somebody you know, a friend of a friend, whatever, to this hobby. And to do it in such a terrible, awful way, that sucks. Dude, fuck those guys. Fuck the DM and the Paladin. I'm upset on your behalf. I'm mad on your behalf. Let's get to the next story for today. Sabotage is my way of contribution. Creating Greetings! I tried my best to do proper grammar and error-free spelling. I wanted to share my recent story, though thankfully not as horrible as some of the other ones here. We'll play the West Marches style campaign, and hear some of the more special sides of our group. It's allowed to homebrew stuff as long as it doesn't turn unfair, and it's also not uncommon for players DMing small quests outside of the main story, so that there's no forever DM. But the DMs that run the main story have the right to change certain things if they negatively impact the main story to prevent sabotage, or if it would screw over an absent player's project. It never happened in the past, as we all agreed upon playing nice with each other. Also, notes are taken in a separate group chat that everyone can access. All the design decisions never caused any major issues, as the whole group agreed upon some basic decency and keeping things fair. Now onto the story. The world the game is set in was hit by calamity, lots of death and destruction including the party's home. Another player and I asked one of the main DMs if they could DM some laid-back sessions for us when we mainly roleplay and do some repairs, and they agreed. So we set up a call and all when someone joined. It was a new player referred to as a Saboteur that only recently joined, and they asked if they could join us mid-session. They already showed some questionable behavior in the session 0, but we chalked it up to them being new and that maybe their character is just on a more evil side of things. We agreed upon it, and they joined us with a new character. Said new character showed up in the house. The other two players started to talk and it turned progressively sour. The Saboteur's character didn't show any compassion or empathy for the fact that within the world there was a catastrophe and mocked the victims. It went so far that the player character decided the combat was an option. Initiative was rolled, they went first, missed, and the Saboteur casted a homebrew remove limbs instant hit spell. Huh? Hold on. Whoa. Remove instant limbs spell? Good lord, what kind of homebrew hell are y'all in? We were baffled and confused, but the affected player said she's okay with it, so the fight continued. How? She's not very confrontational and probably thought she could soothe the mood with appeasement. Some more auto hits and the DM had enough and said, the Saboteur's character is magically whisked away to a far island, and the session was over on account of misbehaving on a Saboteur's part. I had a quick talk with the DM about this and they told me they already know and avoided the Saboteur as a player, but they seem to only want to harm other people. We decided I should talk to the Saboteur in the group chat about their behavior. They didn't take it well when I approached them politely and just told them bluntly that if they keep behaving like this, they'll be avoided and end up alone with the group. Shortly after, they announced that they need a break from the group. Yeah, I feel like we definitely need a break from the group. I feel like remove limb spell on allies? Dude, that's a big red flag. I feel like we need to tell a person like, no, you cannot have that kind of spell. You can't use it on allies. I'm not gonna allow PvP. Knock it off. Knock this nonsense off or you're out. First strike. Actually, not even first strike. Don't give him strikes. Just say next time it happens, you're out. I'm not gonna tolerate this. Remove limb spell on an ally. Christ. Sounds like homebrew hell. Fast forward to the next day, the other player in the DM as well as I decided we have time for a side quest and set out to do it. I guess the Saboteur read our notes and decided they wanted to strike again. They asked the DM if they can do some small character development in writing, which isn't uncommon. So while the party was out in the field, the Saboteur's even newer character sneaked into the building and claimed it as their own. They started to cast spells and curses on it, and when the party returned, they could no longer enter their house. The DM ended the session for them on account of needing to look up if it was within the group rules. The DM then wrote me about it and I said that I won't tolerate such a behavior and that I'll place complaint with the group's DMs, which was accepted and the DMs will look into it, but then we should first try to solve the issue on a more even level. On the next day, we again had a session and decided to retake the house and have another talk with the Saboteur. The Saboteur decided since it's his house now, they will DM the traps. They were again homebrewed and unfair to the point that defusing one triggered several more. The ultimate trap was that defusing it would kill another player that had been absent in past few sessions per project, which was an underground kingdom for some animals. Your DM says they're not going to tolerate this behavior, but they keep letting the player get away with this sort of thing. Can you just kick the guy out? Is it just there to make a painful situation even more painful with their sabotaging, like the Saboteur stuff? Is that going to be fun for anybody? Is that going to be worth it? I don't think so. I think this guy is just not here to even contribute anything. They're just there to just do whatever they want to do. Sabotage and traps and everything and try to remove limbs. If the dude's not showing any signs of change, it doesn't want to change anything about their playstyle or just playing along well with the rest of the party, I don't think they're going to be fun to have for the rest of your party, honestly. It was a huge no-go and the DM turned player spoke against it and made use of the rights as a main story DM and prevented it. The call ended immediately. In the group chat, the Saboteur announced that the main DM plays unfair and for their own advantage, and they, the Saboteur, can't make some actions within the game if they get shut down like this, and left. Think in hindsight some things could have been handled different. Well, the Saboteur gave you a way out by removing the problem themselves. Also, to argue the fact that like main DM is not letting me do my thing, yeah, if your thing that you're doing is a shithead thing to do, yeah, of course DMs should probably step in and not let you do the shithead thing to do, like removing limbs, or trying to have players trap, or activate a trap upon more traps upon more traps. Y'all's just stuck in a homebrew hell. I feel like y'all need to put on some ground rules with SOS March's campaign. Too many things are being like lenient with for no reason, and it can be really easily exploited in my opinion. If you or a loved one have a player that's a Saboteur that's trying to screw everybody over instead of playing along with them, I recommend removing them out of the game. Maybe give them like one warning, but then next time they do something else, just remove them. It's just not going to be worth it. I get some people like to use a 3-strike system, but for me it's just, hey, if I give you a warning, next time around you're out. I'm just not going to tolerate it. You're not going to play along and have fun with everybody else, then what's the point of you playing in my game anyway? And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.